Welcome back, one and all. We are going live once again with another Johnny Torch live broadcast. Number 88, this week in comic book television. Oh, yes. As we're winding down the seasons of all the shows we've been watching this past television season, we've got the series premiere of Cloak and Dagger, which is going to run through the summer. As I said before, once Supergirl's done, I'm not going to keep the This Week in Comic Book Television series running through the summer. So we're probably just going to take a look at the show, and then at the end of the season, we'll do another video covering the entire series. Because while it's fun, as I said before, I don't think it's necessarily a ongoing season. I have to do every single episode of Cloak and Dagger. Also, Legion, we're going to be taking a look at. Legion, of course, is going to be wrapping up next week, and Supergirl will be wrapping up the week after that. So we've got 3 shows. That's enough to sustain a season of This Week in Comic Book Television. But once Supergirl's done, we are going to wrap up for the season. Okay, so first, before we get any further, the first order of business, my last shameless plug, I'm going to be doing a live appearance tomorrow, as a matter of fact, in Nashua, New Hampshire at the Radisson Hotel for KidsCon 2018. Going to be there from 10 to 5 in the p.m., signing copies of The Adventures of Bullet's Bourbon Private Eye and giving away some free swag, some free goodies that will hopefully entice you to buy some of the comics. And these are always fun. I get to meet a lot of cool people this way. I get to make some sales that isn't quite as impressive online, but the sales I make at these shows are actually a lot more impressive. So they're always fun to do. They're always good for business. They're always good to meet the people that are hopefully going to be interested and keep coming back for more. I have plenty of issues, stories that are in the middle of being written, stories that have been written and are in the middle of being inked, stories that are in the middle of being colored. I'm just one man. So if you want to support the channel, seeing as how I don't get super chats and I don't have a Patreon, which I don't know, I could set up a Patreon, but you kind of need to have a large following for that. I suppose I could set it up anyway and just, see what happens. But the only way to really support me is coming to the shows, buying some books, checking it out for yourself. Of course, if you want to buy online, you can still get digital copies for a pretty reasonable price. So reasonable, in fact, I'm thinking of actually raising the price, but I won't for now, and it is still 99 cents for a digital download of issues 2, 3, and 4. The first issue, since it's a completed issue, that one is $149, but check them out at my website. You can find the link in the description below. Check out my Twitter page as well for the ongoing shenanigans I get into. And check out some of my other videos, as a matter of fact, since we're plugging here, because I kind of take the YouTube channel for granted. We got a couple of subscriptions lately. Thank you for the new subscribers, which is fun because I hadn't had any new subscribers in a while. Also, of course, it goes without saying, hit that like button if you like what you hear. Check out other videos in my channel. Make sure you share and subscribe if you haven't already subscribed. Also, check out the free preview on my website in the link in the description below for 2 free pages of the most recent issue, Street of Dreams, from The Adventures of Bullet's Bourbon Private Eye. That should get you up to speed on where we are and what we're doing now. All right, so thank you for the shameless plug time, and that's kind of the reason why I don't think it's a bad thing to start the show a couple minutes before the set time. The time that I set for it when it counts down. All right, so let's get into This Week in Comic Book Television. We'll start off with Supergirl. This week on Supergirl, we pick up where we left off last week. A fight ensued as Supergirl and Mon-El returned. They raced back to the laboratory. Lena is in the middle of finishing the cure, in this scene anyway, as Supergirl gave her the black rock of Tardos, or whatever the heck it's called. So she manages to get this cure done, give the cure to Rain, while Mon-El and Supergirl subdues her. Mon-El gives her the cure, and Rain separates herself from Sam, and Rain disintegrates, apparently. So Sam is recovered at this point. Apparently, you would think the season would be over and that we've had a happy ending and there isn't much left. And with the 2 episodes left, maybe she would deal with whoever that Sith witch is. I call her a Sith witch. She's the Kryptonian witch or whatever. So Sam is reunited with Ruby, which was nice to see them together again. Supergirl asks Lena to make more of the Black Rock serum. Kara tells Alex about her trip to Argo City and seeing her mom, and basically tells her that she wants to go back. It's nice to see that the heroes are all in costume at this point, especially Mon-El, who wasn't in costume for the longest time, and the whole second season I was like, is he going to get a costume? He got like a DEO outfit, but he didn't get a costume, and now that he finally got his Legion of Superheroes duds, he's in it all the time. And the same thing with Supergirl. Supergirl has been Supergirl pretty much the majority of this season. We didn't get a lot of Kara this season, which I guess that has its drawbacks too. But I mean, that we'll get into this later when we get into Cloak and Dagger. But I appreciate the more costume time, the better. The show, of course, that broke all records for that, of course, was Adam West's Batman and Robin on television. Batman and Robin were always in costume in those episodes. If they spent over the course of an hour, 2 episodes back to back, if they spent a minute is even being kind of giving them the benefit of the doubt, but they probably were only in their civilian identities, I'd say about a minute and a half each episode. All right, so Kara invites Mon-El to go to Argo. I still don't know why they're pursuing this Kara Mon-El romance. It seems like, I guess, because we know the CW, I guess, they're the ones that are really the harbingers of this kind of thing, but they apparently are getting a lot of good feedback for quote unquote what is the Kara Mon-El ship? Caramel? Yeah, I think that's what it is. They're apparently getting some good feedback on this, and so they are still trying to squeeze every little bit of romantic angst out of them too. To their credit, I don't think Kara is as much pining away for Mon-El, which of course makes sense because with the feminist bent of the show, they're not going to show her wanting to be a homewrecker. But Mon is still kind of holding out hope that something is going to happen between them, even though he's got a hot wife, as I like to remind everybody every week, waiting for him in the future. Doesn't make him look all that great that he is still so wildly conflicted. Would have been different if they showed that there was some kind of, well, issues in their romance. The only thing that in their marriage, I should say, the only thing that kind of was hinted at is that Saturn Girl didn't fully confide in him about their plans or something, but it still feels very much like she's kind of just letting her man loose. I don't know. It just is a very strange feeling. And it's another reason why the season is not really living up to standards for me. I mean, season 2 was the pits. That was kind of the worst, but that was mostly because of the Maggie storyline that was like permeated every single episode. This season is better in that respect, but there really isn't a whole lot to root for with Mon-El when he's willing to break up his marriage, apparently. The subplots haven't been really all that great either, with they gave Jean something to do with his father being brought into the cast, and the subplot with Alex and Ruby was okay, but it just feels like the season has been going on like fumes or something. They don't really feel like they've had a punchy, punched up script that they're flying from. I've said all along that the first half of the season was painfully dull. And finally, when we got some punching in action in the past, I don't know, 5 episodes, maybe 4 or 5 episodes, we've seen some real good action. It feels like it's kind of too little too late to really influence how I feel about the season. Anyway, I'm going off a little too long on this topic here, but we got the farewell party for Kara and the DEO. We got one for Kara in Catco, where she's apparently going on assignment, of course. So after she takes off, Guardian and Wynn experience boredom until there is a I don't know what it was, a bank robbery or something, but the guy was just out with the guns and stuff, and cue the gun control debate. Now, I'm going to possibly shock people by saying I don't think this gun control debate thing was too heavy-handed. They did a similar thing last season on Arrow where it was handled about the same, where I think they came down on it a little more neutral in Arrow, where you basically had Curtis being sort of the anti-gun guy. You know, we don't need guns, and it caused more trouble than it's worth. You know, with the violence of people that shouldn't be having them. And then we had Renee, who was the gun advocate, and was basically saying, you know, I like my guns, Hoss. At least here it was a little bit more not quite so, you know, by putting Lena on the pro-gun side, pro-Second Amendment side, it did open up things a little bit, I think, to more legitimacy. I mean, because basically she confronts James, a.k.a. Jimmy, and, you know, they have it out about this issue, and she says basically, I'm a woman, I carry a gun, it makes me feel safe, and that doesn't make me a bad person. Now, like I said, coming from a woman, it sounds a lot more palatable for people, I think. But basically, you say that about anybody. You say, I have a gun, makes me feel safe. There are a lot of weirdos in the world, a lot of people that are out to hurt you, rob, steal, whatever. And it benefits you to have a firearm. So I think they actually gave Lena a more powerful argument here than they gave Renee in the last time they broached this subject in Arrow. But again, you know, for some people that are like, you know, keep your politics out of my shows, I get you. I feel you. You know, I think it's okay to raise these issues as long as you don't beat them into the ground. I mean, you know, they had their episodes to, you know, broach a subject. That's fine. But were they to carry this on? I don't know. Of course, I guess skip to the chase. Jean decides to disarm all of the DEO and have them use, or I think he puts it this way, develop new technology to sort of, you know, find phasers set on stun, so to speak, that they could use. Which, to be honest with you, I don't have a problem with that either. That, on the one hand, makes it feel like he's saying guns are never acceptable. Devices that kill people are never acceptable. We shouldn't use them. But you got to remember, I am a firm proponent of superheroes shouldn't kill. John Jones is a superhero. John Jones leads an organization that is, you know, a protective force for, you know, hostile threats of aliens and so forth. I could buy that he would say no guns. I could buy that he would think we can do better. That to me is all right. I'm fine with that. I was hoping that was going to be the answer for Oliver and Arrow when they had this issue. It was going to be, look, we're going to do better and this and that. But of course, on Arrow, they, you know, the protagonist is a guy with bows and arrows. And, you know, although the comics have Green Arrow predominantly with trick arrows and things of that nature, you know, they seem to want to just stick to the putting an arrow in a guy's leg, and that's how Green Arrow solves the situation. So, well, breaking this down here, so Jimmy and Jean go to the gun manufacturer for the gun control issue. This was kind of heavy-handed, where you have the guy being this close to being sleazy. He's sort of like, well, this is my job, and this is what I do, and, you know, don't hate me for being beautiful. But that kind of, I don't know, was a little heavy-handed, that scene. Clark gets name dropped. That was cool. Lena and Jimmy in the office. Also, Jimmy does the whole Miss Tessmacher, thing from the Superman movies, which was cool. Those are just the Easter eggs we're talking about now. Jean's dad wants him to do a mind meld to preserve his thoughts. Very Vulcan type thing. But Jean is hesitant because I suppose this means that his father's going to be divested of those thoughts. But he's been so cognizant lately that he wants to be able to do this before he gets full on set of Alzheimer's, Martian Alzheimer's. Back on Argo, the Sith Witch causes an accident, and Kara is powerless. So Mon gives her his flight ring, and that gives her a the ability of flight, at least. And she reconnects with an old friend, and it feels like a Harry Osborn situation, where I don't know that she would recognize this old friend, because the last time she was on Krypton, well, by the way, let me clarify, The Amazing Spider-Man 2. You know, how we were led to believe that Peter and Harry were like the best of buds, but they haven't seen each other since the 3rd grade or something. I forget, was it the 2nd grade? I don't remember what he says. But, you know, and then they meet each other again when they're like 18, and it's like, oh man, 10 years have passed, but you know, I still think of you as my best bud. You know, I don't know. I mean, I'm not saying that couldn't happen, but in this case, it's a little more difficult, because how would she recognize her? Because Kara hasn't been to Argo since she was, I don't know, whatever she was, 11, 12 years old. And the idea that she recognized her right off the bat, and I don't know, maybe she didn't recognize her off the bat. Maybe I'm remembering it wrong, but that kind of gave me pause. I don't know. I just thought it was a little strange. Anyhow, so everybody thinks that Kara's paranoid because she chases after the witch. The witch turns out to be some, you know, country bumpkin, and everybody's like, no, she wouldn't do anything, and whatever. Again, we get to the subplot. Jean confronts the gunman and successfully talks him down, which was another kind of nice thing, where not everybody that has a gun is a mad dog killer, I guess. They were trying to say that, you know. This guy, I don't know if he really ended up hurting anybody at the end of it all. He wasn't a mad dog killer, and, you know, sometimes that happens. So anyhow, Kara ends up telling her troubles to Mon-El. Mon-El makes his feelings known. Again, like I said, kind of wish they wouldn't go there. I don't know. Kara doesn't seem too disturbed either. This is something else. I mean, she doesn't seem to be an active pursuant to Mon. She's not pursuing him, but then again, she doesn't seem too disturbed when he's kind of making these romantic overtures. I don't know. I mean, all right. So the Sith Witch attacks again. Kara catches her and turns her over to her police chief pal or whatever she is. The witch owns up and names Selena, the council member, as the big baddie. All right, skipping back again to the side plots here. Lena brings Miss Tessmacher in on her project. It kind of felt to me like they were trying to do a thing from Lorelai and Superman 3 where she looks like a ditz, but she's supposed to be this genius level IQ. I don't really buy that. But meanwhile, we got a subplot of Alex missing Ruby. And Ruby's having fun with Sam up until Covell returns and makes contact with Selena, who steals Kara's ship and makes a new fortress. So apparently we're going to go back to Sam being Rain again. I kind of felt that we were done with that. I kind of felt like we should have just left that alone. But there's got to be, of course, another big heavy here. And hopefully we can get done with Covell. I don't know. Like I said, I don't know. The season's been kind of up and down for me. There's been a couple of good, you know, solitary episodes. But as far as the arc is concerned, I don't know. But that's kind of the way the CW shows are. I kind of wish they were a little bit tighter. I would have tightened this up a little bit. I don't know. I honestly don't know if that's a valid criticism or not. But let's see. I'm going to give this one... I don't know. I actually like this one a bit. I'm going to say 4 stars out of 5. Yeah, I'm going to say 4 stars out of 5 for Supergirl this week. And let me know what you think in the comments below about Supergirl this week. I think we should leave it there because, you know, we've already been on that topic for a good 15 minutes. That's a pretty long segment. for a simple episode, but we are coming into the final stretch, and they will be. Whoa, what did I just do? Okay. But they will be wrapping it up not next week, but the week after. So that should be interesting. All right, I found the right image here. There we go. All right, we're going to move on to Legion, which, of course, is usually a fast segment because I don't have a whole lot to say about Legion. But I have to admit, now that the season is wrapping up and they are getting close to the end, the last three, well, let's say the last two episodes were pretty good leading into this one. And so here we are. This isn't, it's kind of a twist what's going on here, which I guess is cool, but they're kind of trying to lead up to the idea that David is actually going to be the villain. And he's crazy and he can't help himself. And we're also getting to the point now where we're kind of admitting that Sid from the future has been trying to get David from the past to find Farouk's body, so that supposedly they could defeat some greater evil, and they're going to need Farouk's help. And David has been going along with this without question because he trusts Sid. But then again, Sid from the future seems to be not a TV show. No, that was Phil from the future. Anyway, Sid from the future seems to be in league with Farouk because she wants Farouk to kill David because he becomes some wild, crazy guy in the future. And he starts getting on that path in this episode. Sid seems unsure of David knowing what he's doing. We're talking about Sid from the present. So she goes out and she finds a big drain stopper in the middle of the desert, which was kind of weird. Kind of. I don't know. You might see that once in a while, but even weirder, there's this bunny. This poor little bunny gets thrown up on a hook, and that's really sad. But then again, it's also sad what happens to Sid. So she takes the bunny off the hook, which of course is the bait. Of course, she's going to help the bunny, and then she gets pulled down the hole, and she gets a hand injury. And I'm thinking, did that hook go through her hand the way it was going through the bunny? I don't know. That's nasty. Ugh. So David gives chase. He follows her, and he looks for her, I should say. Sid falls to the bottom of the well, or whatever this is here, Alice in Wonderland fashion, where she meets Melanie. Where Melanie seems more lucid, but she's on a man-hating spree. She tells Sid that David is insane and shows her what he's doing in a bunch of like little portals on the ground. Meanwhile, David enters the home where Oliver is there, possessed by the Shadow King. He interrogates him. He tortures him in shifting locations. That's where we get the picture here with the power drill. Lenny shows up in the car. She gets the box from the trunk and sits with a bunch of guys in a circle with boxes on their heads. I didn't understand that too well, but she opens the box and it's a big gun. It's one of those things, one of those jokes where the gun obviously couldn't fit in the box. And to Legion's credit, that's one of their things is the sight gag. Not too many people do that no more. Melanie shows Sid David kissing her future self, and David didn't tell her that she did that, even though she kind of told him not to do that. So Mel, was trying to like pit Sid against David. She shows her the conversation Farouk and future Sid had, and that how she wants the Shadow King to kill David. Melanie says David will be Legion, the World Killer. This is the first time I think we hear him being called Legion. And is this? Let me think. The World Killer. This sounds kind of familiar this year. Let's see. How many World Killers have we seen this year? There's David, going to be the World Killer. Sam as Rain is going to be the World Killer. Quake, Daisy Johnson is going to be the World Killer. I could have sworn I heard this on every plot of every superhero show this season, but it's funny. It's funny. Now Carrie and Carrie take troops to find Lenny. Apparently Clark is there as well. That's the melt-faced guy that I always forget his name. I don't remember whatever happened to the black guy. He disappeared. I forget what happened to him. Did he die? Or last I saw, he was trapped in the sound system boom box or something, wasn't he? With Admiral Fukuhara. Really weird show. Really weird show. All right, the men without boxes on their heads, they take them off. Not men without hats, men without boxes. They take the boxes off their heads, and they come out of the big hole in the ground, and they neutralize all the troops by doing this bolo sound or something. Carrie takes them out. Cool fight scene, but more take their place, and it seems like way too many are, to defy the odds. David, meanwhile, continues to torture Oliver. Twist! Farouk left Oliver and is possessing Melanie now. So apparently he left some kind of control in Oliver's brain where he couldn't rat him out, but it really wasn't Oliver that he was torturing. And this is kind of the thing. This is Sid's challenge, is to remain faithful to David. This is what this is all setting up. And I like that. I just don't like that it took us, I don't know, eight useless episodes to get here. But Farouk is in Melanie and is the Satan in Sid's ear, trying to tell her not to trust David, trying to tell her that he should be killed. I don't exactly know how in the future he, got around Sid in the future, I guess. But apparently, the truth should be that, I mean, yeah, that's what it is about Legion. It's confusing to explain, but Sid's been saying all along that love is what's going to save them, and if they stick together and this and that. Now she's putting that to the test. You see, this is what's going to put it to the test, because we all know David's a little bit out there. He's a little off. He's he's certifiably insane. But the fact is that he is faithful to her, very faithful to her. He's trustworthy, and he is trying to do the right thing. But she's like, Melanie is like filling, or I should say Shadow King is filling Sid's head with all kinds of stuff about how terrible he is and how he tried to kill himself, and basically that he can't be trusted. So this is actually going to fall squarely on Sid's shoulders now to save the day by not falling for Shadow King's temptations. All right. So the Shadow King sends out his monster and retakes his old body. Carrie gets taken down the rabbit hole. Lenny comes to their aid. The other Carrie goes after the other Carrie. The monster kills Carrie's captor. He runs into David in the house. I don't know how he got there, but whatever. He says that Clark brought a dampener, which is like a big tuning fork. Carrie finds Sid, the other Carrie, the female Carrie. Sid believes that David is the danger, apparently, at this point, and they fight the actual monster, which was nice. I like to see some action here. Farouk knocks out Clark and the others and disposes of the tuning fork. And that is where we are left off for the season finale, a season finale. They are coming back next season, which is good. I mean, like I said, they just got to tighten it up. I think this season could have been, probably could have been, done in, I don't know, 4 episodes. All right, let's say 6. Well, I'll give you the benefit of the doubt. I'll give you 6 episodes. You could have cut half the season out, though, because nothing happened. Some of the stuff was confusing. A lot of the stuff was cutesy, artsy fartsy with, this is the lesson for today. We're going to talk about whatever. I mean, that stuff is fine on its own, but that's like a YouTube video. That's not really something that we need to see in the show. I don't know. I'm going to give this one, though, 4 stars out of 5. I think this is another one where it's one of the better episodes of the season. I enjoyed it a lot. Kind of not quite up there to convince me. And we see David struggle with the dark side too. I don't think I mentioned that. Where he's like telling Carrie that he's thinking of all the ways that he could kill Farouk and so forth and stuff like that. I mean, this is basically where the rubber meets the road now. Where is Sid going to stay true to David? Is David going to stay true to himself? And, it's good. It's good. It's a good episode. Like I said, it's touch and go with this season. All right, so we are going to wrap that up now, and we have got, this is probably bound to be a bit of a longer segment because this was a 2-hour premiere, and I think it was good they made it a 2-hour because they really needed to get down deep in this show to try to, get you up to speed with it because it starts kind of slow. I don't know if I should go over just the basic ideas with you here. Setting the ground rules here. I'm familiar with Cloak and Dagger. I'm not all that well versed in the Cloak and Dagger lore. So if something seems, unusual to me, you can call me out on it in the comments. Let me know. But uh, I I don't know exactly. This. Let's put it this way. I knew this was going to be a teenage drama. With the teen angst and what's going on, and in the comics, Cloak and Dagger were basically runaways. They got these funky powers by some kind of experiment, which they didn't do in this, I don't think. And they were running away from crappy backgrounds, and they kind of only had each other because they both kind of were joined to each other in sort of a I don't know what kind of sense. It was just that their powers sort of complemented each other. And Cloak was sort of the strong, silent type. Dagger was sort of the, you know, empathetic one, I suppose. And I didn't really feel what I know about Cloak and Dagger in these characters in this show. It didn't really, because when you watch some shows and you kind of get that spark of recognition and you say, oh, yeah, that's what I remember. And even though I haven't probably read Cloak and Dagger since I was a kid, I don't know. I didn't really recognize these two. The actors were pretty good. I liked I can't remember their names. I didn't mark it down. Olivia, I think Olivia was the name of the girl, and I can't remember the name of the guy. She was better than him, I think, but she had more put upon her. She had to cry. She had to look, frenzied and angry and stuff. I thought she handled these dramatic, emotional scenes well. Cloak's actor also did pretty good, but I kind of got the feeling that he was covering up a British accent. I think I remember hearing him speak, in interviews or something. I'm pretty sure, like back a year ago when they were first cast, and I'm not sure, but I'm pretty sure that he's masking a British accent because it doesn't sound all that convincing. He's no John Boyega, let's put it that way, where you really believe and buy in. You would think John Boyega was born here in the U.S. But I don't know if I really buy that from him. But all right, just to start off, so it turns out that Tyrone and Tandy are their names. Tyrone is Cloak and Tandy is Dagger. Tandy is sort of from a broken home. This is something also I wasn't aware of, that she came like from a really dark place. The stuff where she goes through in this is very dark. And I think they're trying, because like I said, I don't remember what it was like in the comics, but I think they're trying to do some kind of cute swap, a reversal here where Tandy has the broken home life, and she's supposed to be representing the light, while Cloak has the good, whatever you want to call it, the good, healthy, normal working family, while he's embracing the dark. It's kind of hard to feel that from the comics. I don't know. So my first problem is, I guess, with the show is I didn't really feel like it connected to the comics. Also, problems were that they don't even really meet more than once in this whole 2 hours. I don't really know the significance of that. I don't know why they didn't put them together at some point. I understand being patient and developing a story when you've got a series, you've got that luxury. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that this bored me, like, oh, why are they getting them together and this and that. But I kind of felt like in a 2-hour movie, you could get to the heart of the matter and get these two together. I don't know how long they're going to string this out where they're not going to be together. And it, again, feels very much like the teen drama. It feels like the teen angst. It doesn't feel like a superhero show. Now, some will probably say, well, that's pretty much by design. We're not going to see Tandy in the white cotton jumpsuit as much as I would like, but it's not going to happen. We're not going to see, apparently Tyrone can just put a garbage bag over his head and jump from portal to portal or whatever. You know it's not going to be that respectful, I don't think, to comics to begin with. It's just a uh, it's a teen drama first and a comic book superhero thing later. Might not even be later. I don't know how far they're going to go with this. All right, so let's jump into the story. Let's get into some of these notes I made here. Let's see. All right, we start with a flashback of Tandy is a ballerina when she was a kid. Tyrone is in a cloak and he's hanging with the local hoods. He breaks in the car and steals a radio for his brother because his brother doesn't want to, sort of break the law with the rest of the hoods. His brother makes him take it back. They get made by the cops. They run. One of the cops, they got Tyrone's brother up against like a pier or something in the water, and at the other side of the bay over there, Tandy's dad picks her up, which is kind of disconcerting that like an 8-year-old or whatever she was hanging around waiting for a pickup for like 3 hours. Anyhow, he ends up getting into a car accident because he's not paying attention. He crashes into the river and she gets trapped in the car. Meanwhile, Tyrone's brother gets shot by the cop after there's this explosion in, I guess, Roxxon factory or something. And of course, this energy wave is going to hit a couple people. And we all know who those people are. You can see them on the screen right here. And Tyrone's brother gets shot by the cop. This sets up the whole pretty much premise of the whole episodes. And killed, and he falls into the river. Now, young Tyrone jumps into the river to try to save his brother. His brother's dead, and I think he's just like passing out from trying to be underwater and saving him. And then somehow, I guess Tandy gets out of the car. I don't know if I didn't see how it happened or whatever. But anyhow, they both wind up escaping. And I guess it was basically Tyrone got her out of the car. I'm not sure, but they escape to the beach. And in flashbacks we see later, Tandy wakes up before Tyrone and takes his cloak to wear because she's cold and walks off, while Tyrone wakes up a little bit later and finds one of her ballet slippers and keeps that too as a memento. All right, so that sets off Tyrone on a path here now where he's basically wanting to find out who killed his brother and bring them to justice. Only problem is the cop that killed his brother didn't do it maliciously. It was an accident because when this explosion went off, itchy trigger finger, he just pulled the trigger. So it's kind of a strange place to put this. I don't really know exactly how you avenge that kind of death because it wasn't really done maliciously. Now the flashback continues. We'll talk about the flashback stuff first, I guess, where Tyrone ends up telling his parents that the cop is lying, the one that's covering it up, because he knows that he was shot because they're trying to say that the body was, I think he overdosed, they were trying to say, and that he was floating in the river or whatever, which I think that they would be able to find bullet holes in him, and that would probably make Tyrone's story conclusive. But anyway, so I don't know, they make Tyrone and that he was there stealing the car, so he gets in trouble, but he doesn't go to jail because he's like 8 years old or whatever. All right, so meanwhile, let's take on Tandy's life. She's got like this really bad life going on here, which is very, very, like I said, different than what I remembered in the comics. Anyway, she basically hustles rich white boys, and she takes this guy back to her to his place and ends up roofing him, and sort of a reverse Bill Cosby, I guess, and robs him blind. And she apparently has a drug problem as well. She ends up stealing a lot of drugs and chopping them up and taking them for herself. And like I said, it's very unsettling. I'm not too crazy about the way they portrayed her. I mean, yeah, like I said, the actress was fine, but it's just, I don't know. It's like, I don't know. She ends up hiding out in an abandoned church. I guess that's where she lives. Um, I thought the music, because that's like the trademark of the average teen angst show is the music. I thought the music was very annoying in the beginning of this, but the music from the end of the episode through the second episode was a big improvement. But that was one of my notes here is where this music is driving me crazy. I mean, it's like Smallville on steroids. That's how the music is. It's like they take any annoying song that's popular, I guess, and use it. But at least Smallville had a handful of good songs that they played. All right. So meanwhile, Tyrone's on the basketball court. He's getting into fights. It's causing trouble. All right. So they meet each other. Let's just skip to that. I'm not going to get into all these notes. I take too many notes. So they meet each other at this student function or wherever or whatever, where one of the girls invited Tyrone to this student get together or whatever. Tandy sees him as a mark, basically, and she like spills some beer on him or something as an excuse to lift his wallet. Doesn't take him long to figure it out. He gives chase. They bounce off each other with their powers, and she kind of figures he's the one right off the bat, and they kind of have a moment. But then she scats, and they don't see each other again for like the rest of the 2 hours. That's kind of what I mean. I needed less Tandy being a wild child and Tyrone being sort of possessed by demons of revenge. And I needed to get these two together and have them fight crime. Now, what I mean by fighting crime is they needed to, because at this point, they're both trying to commit crimes. You know what I mean? It's like they needed to do something proactively good in order for me to kind of feel like I have some kind of empathy for them. That doesn't really happen in this series, at least the first 2 episodes. And I think another problem I had was there was a lack of fun. I mean, this show is earnest. This is Ernest Goes to Camp Ernest. You know what I'm saying? This is earnest. There is no laughs. There is no jokes. I mean, you've got the kind of, slice of life humor or something, I guess. I'm trying to think off the top of my head what I found funny, and I couldn't find anything. And again, not every show has to be, not every superhero concept has to be a laugh riot. It doesn't have to be MCU style, yucks every other scene. But it helps. And I think it would have helped this show a little bit if they would have lightened up a little bit, give it a little bit of levity, but it's so darn earnest. Drive me crazy. So she scats and she runs away. Tandy goes back to her boyfriend. I guess his name is William, and they're sort of like a double team, the Bonnie and Clyde type thing, or whatever. And she asks him about if he believes in God, and he kind of doesn't, I guess. But she starts going over the accident with the crash, and she goes over the crazy things that happened. I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I guess this guy seems to be all right. I thought he was just taking advantage of her in the beginning, but apparently, nah. They use because it's like he kind of uses her as the bait for these rich floppy guys, and that's how they steal and make money from these guys because they sort of lure her out. All right. So meanwhile, Tyrone wakes up in front of the Roxxon sign because I guess apparently he can't control his powers either. He flips back and forth through dimensions, whatever. He puts even a sheet over his head. Now he just happens to see his brother's killer on his way home, and that was I think that was the only scene that I had a laugh because I did write in my notes right here. That was a laugh where he's trying to get a ride, and the cabbie comes up to him and he's like, You got any money in that cloak? Because he's got the sheet over his head. It's like, well, and he just drives off. That's what I mean by that was like a slice of life kind of joke. But apart from that, there really wasn't no humor. But so he sees his brother's killer is a redheaded guy with a scar, and this kind of like sets him into motion into being obsessed with getting this guy. Tandy's mom is a booze hound. She goes back there and she hides her pink bag of goodies in the apartment or whatever. There's a house there, and it kind of reminded me of what is it, Cobra Kai, where Johnny's ex-wife is sort of like kind of loose. Let's put it that way. I guess that's what Tandy's mom is supposed to be. So Ty is like investigating the cop, and his mom is like concerned about him and this and that. There's a lot of swears in this. That seems to be another thing. This is not really like a family-friendly show. We'll get to that in a moment with what happens to Tandy in a second. There's a lot of swears, and that seems to be the norm, though, for cable television. I mean, I think you can say everything but an F-bomb. I mean, that's what it seems like anyway. Maybe you can just, as long as there's not multiple F-bombs, I don't know, but they pretty much say anything else freely here, and that's what they did in Krypton. And I kind of found that annoying in Krypton because, you see, I'm not such a Puritan where I'm going to like, oh my gosh, this is terrible. Somebody said the S word, I'm like, okay. But when you overdo it, it feels like you're trying too hard. It's like, all right, we get it. This is serious. This is dark. This is gritty. I mean, you want to drop an S-bomb or something once in a while, it's fine. But, they dropped a couple more things than that. But I kind of felt it was unnecessary. So Tandy goes to the ballet because she stole ballet tickets from that guy or whatever. And the guy ends up finding out, I mean, he was figuring that she was going to use those tickets because he knew, I guess, that she was into the ballet or whatever. So they end up, him and two buddies end up getting her in an alley, apparently attempt to rape her. Again, this is kind of intense stuff here for a teenage show, I think. Apparently it's just the guy, the one that she stole from. But she ends up using her powers for the first time and makes the light projectile dagger in her hand, which is what she was known for in the comics. Now, I'm not sure. Apparently, a character named Dagger is obviously going to use daggers. I don't know if she ever killed anyone in the comics, but she stabs this guy here, and deservedly so. But and this, of course, sets her off on another path of being a fugitive. Tyrone, I must have missed this part. I don't know what happened. He wound up in the cop car where he found like coke and stuff, and I don't know, he gets away and manages to transport back away from there. I don't know. And so the scene ends. The episode ends though with she still has the original cloak from when he rescued her as an 8-year-old boy, which it fits her very, very loosely. I kind of thought that an 8-year-old kid wearing that, or whatever he is, I don't know, 9 maybe. I wouldn't give him more than 9. 9-year-old kid wearing that, and then a grown, semi-grown girl wearing it would probably look smaller. Looked like it was really big on her. And he still got the slipper, and so it's like there's like some kind of connection that we know they're bound to have in the future if they ever meet each other again, which they don't. All right, so we start the next episode. The police are investigating some unnamed cop. I don't know, at least maybe I missed it, but some female cop is leading the investigation. We pick up with Tandy and William. They try to find out what happened to the guy. And she does have some it's a pretty good dialogue here where she says, what should I hope for? Because they're calling the hospital to find out if the guy was killed. Now, if the guy was killed, she killed somebody. And not only is that something that's kind of tough to live with, you're going to be a fugitive if you don't turn yourself in. And if the guy survives, he's going to, make her, put the finger on her, whatever way you want to put it. And she's either going to be a fugitive or go to jail. So that's kind of what happens. Although, I don't know, she probably could say it was in self-defense, which was the case. But she ends up deciding to bounce, and come to find out the guy survives. So I don't know if we're going to hear anything else about that later, but it was good to know that she wasn't going to be a killer, a murderer or whatever, because that would have put the show on an even darker path, unfortunately. Now, Tyrone apparently has a priest for a friend. There's some kind of joke later on. I say joke not in the funny sense, but in the sort of sardonic sense where, I don't know. He was going to like a dollar store, not a dollar store. What do they call those? Convenience store. And I guess instead of picking up like bread, he puts it over his shoulder and he's like, "Give me a half a pint or something." I don't know what it was, but I guess he drinks and stuff too. It was like, I'm like, okay, so you got Tandy who's like thinking God's involved in her powers, and you got Tyrone who's apparently pretty religious in the sense that he knows the Old Testament pretty well, at least. And the priest is like kind of just coasting along, I guess. I don't know. I thought that was a little weird. But he confides in the priest. He wants an eye for an eye. He wants his brother's killer to be brought to justice. And he thinks that God may have put this on him to do. Interesting. So he continues to stake out the cop, the corrupt cop. The cop that's in charge of finding Tandy is interrogating the two guys. Tandy and William go to a guy for a fake ID. She needs like $1,000 or something. She goes back to her mom's house, and her mom emptied the goodie bag, and they have this sort of, melodramatic fight because her mom's fooling around and taking all her dope and, drinking the booze in the morning. And, at this point I was like, can we just have a bank robber show up and like, maybe Tyrone and Tandy kind of meet each other there and say maybe we should stop this guy. I don't want to sound simplistic, but I mean that's kind of like the way I feel about Supergirl when I'm like, all right, we've got the liberal agenda, check. We've got the feminist angle, check. We got women's rights and lesbians and gun control. Can we see somebody punching, please? And I'm kind of feeling that way with this show. I'm like, at this point, I just want to see them get together and like fight criminals and do stuff. The only thing I can compare this to is The Gifted, and The Gifted is way better. But The Gifted is sort of like, again, I'll use this term, a slice of life superhero show, where it's basically about this family trying to, keep their head above water, so to speak. It's not really about the X-Men going out there and fighting crooks. But that's kind of at least part of the mission statement of the X-Men is you have the Brotherhood versus the X-Men. And at least you've got something fun to play with there. Here, there really isn't anything other than the teen angst. I mean, he's gonna get that cop that killed his brother eventually, I guess, and she's gonna end up getting on the run. I don't know. I don't know what they're leading to with this. And within 2 episodes, I should have a feeling for what they're going to lead to. Anyhow, they go back. Tyrone goes back because he's still staking out the cop. The coach is mad, and he reads him the riot act, and he's making the team work hard and stuff. Meanwhile, Tandy don't have the money now because her mom stole her blind. And so her and her boyfriend sneak into a shindig to lift some cash. I thought they were going to roll that rich twit for his dough, but because he was like peeling off hundreds and acting like, fix my collar or whatever it was. Apparently, he didn't have enough, I guess. I mean, I thought they were just going to, whack him upside the head and take his wallet and say, all right, give me the stuff. I don't know. Anyhow, Ty practices on the court after hours. The team comes in, works him over because the coach is tough on them and because he's ruining their chances by slacking off the team. Anyhow, he goes back afterwards to stalking the cop with a baseball bat this time. Cop hears him and he bounces, to make a long story short. Tandy uses her powers to see. That's another interesting thing. I didn't really know that was an element of her powers. I knew that Cloak usually sent his, victims, for lack of a better term, into like a world of bliss, a world of hurt or something. And that was interesting in the comics. I didn't know Tandy could do the reverse. I forgot that, or I don't remember that anyway. And she pulls this power on her mother. And she sees times where her mother was with the father and had high hopes. And then she sees the boyfriend's mind there, where he just wants to get married to her and live happily ever after or whatever. I thought this meant he was going to die, but we'll see what happens to him in a minute. Anyhow, so she confides in the I don't know, the maid of honor or something, and she ends up lifting the money from her purse, which that was a pretty good feat. I'd like to see how that was done. And they scoot, they leave, they steal the place blind. The guy gets the cash bar, and she gets whatever else in the bird cage, whatever. So meanwhile, Ty talks to his mom, uh, prompting another dark vision where he sees his mother's fears and so forth. And it sort of, I don't know, drains her, I guess. I don't know if she gets tired. I don't know if that was meant to be part of the process. But so at the end of the episode, William confronts Tandy, and she basically breaks it off and says that, she's got to do this on her own. She's going to take it to the road. So as soon as she leaves, the cop ends up finding William, and he gets pinched, and he calls her, and she apparently just doesn't care. Or let's put it this way: if she cares, she's not going to get caught just to go back and try to, you know, I don't know what she could do. She probably couldn't get him out of any trouble. I mean, he did steal that place with her. He stole the place blind with her, so he ain't going to get out of any trouble. And as for Tyrone, he breaks into the corrupt cop's place there, points a gun at him, which I don't know how he got that gun either. That's another thing that was kind of confusing to me. And apparently shoots the gun but doesn't shoot the cop. So he still has a good moral compass anyway, where he's not going to kill either. Anyway, she's driving, and for some reason she visualizes the gunshot, and she makes the light daggers in her hands, which was a good image. I wish we had more of that kind of stuff. And then kind of stopped short in the car, and that's where the episode ends. So to wrap this baby up, like I said, this is kind of indicative of the problems that Marvel's shows have on TV, where the pot boils for way too long. Way too long. I'm like Legion has been going on in this way, and I'm kind of waiting for something to happen. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. was like that back in the day, but the early seasons, maybe they kind of lingered a little too much and was waiting for a payoff for like the whole season before something important happened. I feel like that's happening here. The only one, like I said, I don't feel that too much from is The Gifted. But I'm interested in it. It kept my attention. Near the end, I was starting to kind of feel like, all right, will you do something? Will you guys kind of get together and do something? But for the most part, I was engaged. That's the thing. It's like, don't bore me. Just don't bore me. That's all I ask. Because Legion bored me this year. And this show didn't bore me, so I can't say it did that bad of a job. But they really need to get it together. And, you don't need that much setup. But the thing is, this is not going to be a superhero crime fighter every week, a new villain type thing. I think they're eventually going to go after Roxxon, who was responsible for the explosion that had the cop shoot Tyrone's brother, and responsible for the car crash that killed Tandy's mom. In some sense, Roxxon is going to be the villain, and whoever's going to be in charge of that will probably have something to do with their quote-unquote crime fighting. But again, I always say, you need costumes, you need a villain, you need action. Those are the three things you need for a successful superhero show. So far, this has none of the three. It could improve. I hope it will improve. I liked it to an extent. Like I said, I wasn't bored. I wasn't frustrated with it. Especially the actors were pretty compelling. I enjoyed seeing them. And Tyrone's a big fan of Larry Bird. I don't know if that was in the comics either, but I thought that was pretty cool because, that's not really his generation. Does he really know enough about Larry Bird? But hey, as a guy from Boston, I'm saying, hey, I appreciate the shout out. Okay, so I am going to give the Cloak and Dagger series premiere. I'm gonna rate them as one whole episode, because it's 2 episodes strung back to back. But I kind of watched it as one whole thing, and I kind of felt it was one whole thing. So I am just going to give it a 1 whole rating. I am going to give it 3.5 stars out of 5. I think I'm going to give it 3.5 stars out of 5. I was tempted to give it 3 because the first half I think was a little bit weaker. Second half got me into a little bit more, so the second half bumps it up. As a whole, I'm gonna give it 3.5 stars out of 5 because I kind of seen it that way. But the first episode, I think it started off a little weak, and I think it got a little bit stronger in its characterizations by the end of the second episode. So I have hopes that it's only going to get better from here, but uh, it's kind of not must see TV to me. I mean, I'm going to follow it. I'm going to keep watching it. I enjoyed it. I just want there to be more. I want there to. It's kind of also like a Netflix show. You know, the Netflix shows are always, they linger around too much with the subplots and the dumb stuff. And I don't want that to happen with this. I kind of want them just to get to the heart of the matter and get them together on this. I think they're probably not going to get together as a team until the last episode of the season. And that's probably where they're going to start making their moves. They'll probably meet each other again throughout the series, but I don't think we're going to see Cloak and Dagger until probably near the end. I don't know. If it's not the last episode, it'll be the penultimate episode maybe, but that's really what we're going to probably see them as a team at the very end, doing whatever they're doing. Whatever their, doing whatever their objective is in this. I don't know what it is. He doesn't really have a cloak. They probably are not going to get in the costumes. I don't know. It's just like not a letdown, but it's par for the course. It's par for the Marvel course. Same thing as like, Finn Jones not wearing the Iron Fist suit and stuff. I mean, this is just what we've got to deal with. And it shouldn't be like that in 2018. In 2018, you should be able to give us straight from the page accurate representations of these characters. But I'm going to give Cloak and Dagger 3.5 stars out of 5 for the season premiere. 3.5 stars out of 5 for the season premiere of Cloak and Dagger. So I want to thank you for joining me here yet again for another live broadcast. We went about an hour, I guess. And once again, join me tomorrow if you're listening to this today. But if you're not listening to it today, then June the 10th, I'm going to be at KidsCon at the Radisson Hotel in Nashua, New Hampshire for some goodies and signing copies of the Adventures of Bullets Bourbon. It's going to be a fun time for all. It's a family-friendly event. All ages are welcome. Of course, The Adventures of Bullets Bourbon is an all-ages book, I always hasten to add. A lot of fun. Going to meet a lot of cool folks. Going to have a lot of fun and give away some good stuff. And hopefully you can buy yourself a couple of copies of the issues we have out right now. And that will help me to make more issues. I can honestly say every dime that I've made from The Adventures of Bullets Bourbon comics goes into making the next issue. I am very strict on myself on that. I mean, it's not a matter of buying myself macaroni and cheese and stuff. It goes straight into the next issue. So lots of excitement to be had there tomorrow, or if you're listening to this after the fact, keep an eye on my website, and I'm going to see if I can get at least one more appearance on the convention circuit this year before the end of the year. Halfway through the year already, hard to believe. So thank you for joining us once again, and remember, I'm your host, Johnny Torch, reminding you, keep the flame burning brightly, and I'll be with you again real soon.